So there's two teams immediately that I think of that had a really good free agency, and another team that I think had a win the headlines free agency. I put out a take last week that the Philadelphia Eagles had an interesting offseason. I didn't necessarily agree, not even necessarily, I didn't agree at all with the Saquon Barkley deal. I thought it was too rich for my taste. I thought it was crazy to give money to a running back position in which everyone is not giving money to in this day and age, with holes at certain positions like Josh Sweat, like Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick could still absolutely be gone. Josh Sweat looks like he's going to stay after a disappointing campaign in 2023. But here's my problem with the Philadelphia Eagles. The linebackers are still really bad, and the secondary is still really bad. Darius Slay is 32, 33 years old. He's not getting any younger. And what happens with cornerbacks as they get older? They tend to deteriorate pretty rapidly, similar to running backs, and aren't necessarily to keep up with the speed of the NFL as the elite cornerbacks can do. Darius Slay's been a fine pro, but sometimes they just tend to fall off a cliff. Maybe he won't, but that's a question mark there. James Bradbury can't cover anything. And the linebackers of the Philadelphia Eagles are still suspect to say the least. For Philadelphia Eagles fans who have simply looked at the Philadelphia Eagles names that they brought in and said, we did it, we won the offseason, I encourage you to really look into the players that you got. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, although was a very solid safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, led in 2023 one of the worst secondaries in the Detroit Lions. He wasn't great. He was very mid, as the kids like to say. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was not an amazing free agency signing that's going to fix everything in the secondary. If anything, it's a middle-of-the-road free agency signing that wins headlines because for some reason, that's what Philadelphia Eagles fans are into. Devin White, the linebacker that was got by the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles fans, ask yourself this. Ask yourself this. If Devin White was so good, if Devin White was going to solve the linebacker problems, why did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who absolutely had the money to match that offer, decide, who have seen him for years now, yeah, we're good on Devin White? Why'd they do that, Eagles fans? Why'd they do that? Maybe because Devin White isn't so good after all. Maybe because Devin White isn't exactly the linebacker that you think he is. He's a very poor tackler, and he gets ran over by offensive linemen a lot. He's not great in the run game. It's similar to Isaiah Simmons. We see a player that can jump high, that can run really fast, and is a human highlight reel for either a year or as Isaiah Simmons was in college, and we just think they're going to hit in the NFL. Devin White has been an overwhelming bust in the NFL. He's not a good linebacker. That was a win the headlines type of signing for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't blame them for bringing him in. Maybe they can figure him out. Maybe Vic Fangio can. But I still have a ton of questions about the Philadelphia Eagles, mainly on the offensive side of the ball with all those weapons that they had simply last year with a ton of weapons. But their head coach, Nick Sirianni, could not figure it out. So spare me the argument that you got Huff on the defensive line, and you're keeping Josh Sweat, and you got guys as well as Saquon Barkley and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Free agency is fool's gold. I still have a ton of questions about the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not going to act like I'm sending them to the Super Bowl or winning their division because they signed a running back in Saquon Barkley who has not had a 1,000-yard season in the past 4 seasons. So spare me that argument. And another team that I think on the flip side had an amazing free agency. I am much higher on this team right now than I was a year ago. There's still the NFL draft to happen. Maybe they add another player to this position. But the New York Jets going and getting another weapon for Aaron Rodgers and bringing in the tackle from the Dallas Cowboys and Tyron Smith, I think were great deals. They're not tied up to either of these guys. These are both one-year deals. And I said last year, I didn't buy this New York Jets offense. Granted, one of my reasonings was Breece Hall is coming off an injury. Who knows if he's going to be the same guy? He absolutely was. But this New York Jets offense was a lot of flash, a lot of glamour, but not necessarily deep in positions where they needed to be. It was a lot of Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers to start the season and nothing else. But then Breece Hall came on, but they were still missing another weapon. Mike Williams, although coming off of a significant injury, was never one of those guys who beat you over the top with his speed. He was always an elite route runner and a jump ball wide receiver. This is a guy who leaned on his route running. This is a guy who leaned on his jump ball red zone threat ability. So for the New York Jets, whose defense was stout last year, was very good, Robert Saleh had them humming to end the season, we don't know about Aaron Rodgers. That's the X factor for the New York Jets. The X factor for the New York Jets is plain and simply Aaron Rodgers, because I love what they've done in free agency this year. They added a tackle in Tyron Smith, said goodbye to Mekhi Becton. Tyron Smith in, Mekhi Becton out there in the left tackle position. And then they went and got a big body receiver in Mike Williams, who, yes, coming off an injury, this is not a guy who would ever beat you over the top with his speed. This is a big body wide receiver, a red zone threat, and adds yet another layer to this offense for Aaron Rodgers to dissect. You got Mike Williams now, you got Breece Hall, and you got Garrett Wilson. Those are three legitimate weapons, and they still have the draft to attack. Now, the X factor for the New York Jets is Aaron Rodgers. The last time we saw Aaron Rodgers play, he wasn't very good. He was just a middle-of-the-road quarterback, statistically speaking, and he did not elevate the Packers enough around them to the playoffs. Now, maybe that's changed. Maybe there were some issues internally for the Green Bay Packers, but I saw the Green Bay Packers get better this year without Aaron Rodgers. They just simply did. They made the playoffs, and they made clutch situations happen, where in the last year of Aaron Rodgers, he just didn't make that happen. So now you have to find out if Aaron Rodgers can still play. Coming off of an Achilles tear, I have my doubts for Aaron Rodgers. But here's what I will say. If Aaron Rodgers can still play at a top 10 quarterback level, I love this New York Jets offense. I love this New York Jets team. Breece Hall coming back, commanding that running back room, adding a real second dimension to that pass offense that will happen with Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams on both ends. And then being able to add another weapon in the draft. And these are not contracts that they're tied up with. Mike Williams, 1-year deal. Tyron Smith, 1-year deal. These are not things that are going to hinder the New York Jets forever. But I love what the New York Jets did in free agency, specifically picking out pieces of need and filling those holes. And I don't really love what the Philadelphia Eagles did. We'll continue to talk more free agency next week. But until then, those are my two grades. I love what the New York Jets did, not so much what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. One is trying to win headlines, and the other one is filling real positions of need.